Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Monday noon devotion. I want to ask you a question, and that is this. What have you gotten used to over the past year? What have you gotten used to? Something maybe that a year and a half ago you didn't used to do, you didn't used to see, you didn't used to think about, you didn't used to hear about. What have you gotten used to? I asked this because I was listening to a conference over the weekend, and someone was talking about all the different things in terms of pandemic protocols that we have gotten used to, and they made that statement. This stuff just seems normal now because we've gotten used to it. Well, yesterday, if you were a part of our worshiping together at Hood Memorial Christian Church, you heard me say that whatever is to come, I'm not interested in going back or forward to normal. I'm interested in what resurrection looks like as we move forward and into and through and out of this pandemic. I want resurrection, not normal. I don't want pandemic protocols to start feeling normal. I want resurrection. And so I'm thinking a lot about that. And as we move into this new series through our church and looking at what does resurrection look like as we journey through and out of this pandemic, we're going to be talking a lot about that. We're going to be looking for signs of resurrection. As we said yesterday, Jesus appeared to his disciples, and Thomas wasn't there, but Thomas heard about it from the disciples later and says, yeah, I'm not going to believe it. I want to see the scars. I want to see those scars in Jesus' hands. And of course, a few days later, Jesus appears before Thomas and holds up his hands and says, Thomas, look, put your fingers in my scars. And Thomas does, and Thomas sees, and he for the first time understands resurrection, right? That it takes this death, it takes these scars that turn our lives into something more, into something beautiful. And I shared that song by Mary Clayton with you yesterday. And if you missed all that, I encourage you to get to our website or our Facebook page and watch worship from yesterday, Sunday, April 11th. Scars get turned into something beautiful because of resurrection, and all the scars that we have experienced from this past year, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever they are, I'm interested in finding resurrection, in healing from those, not getting back to what was. We have been changed, but in looking towards what God is doing through this change, through the scars that we have experienced, that we've gone through the trauma that we've all experienced, as I said yesterday. And so today I want to briefly share with you one of the ways that Jesus talks about this. So if you go to the 5th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, you get a lot of these statements that go like this. You've heard it said, but I say to you. You've heard it said, but let me give you something else. Let me give you a couple of examples of those. Matthew 5:21. You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, you shall not murder. Whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. You've heard it was said, but I say to you. Another one, verse 27. You've heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. Yet I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Verse 38 in Matthew chapter 5. You've heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer, But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile with him, go 2. Verse 43, you've heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Now, you think about this. You've heard that it was said. That's what was normal. That's what had been. You've heard that it was said. But I say to you something new, something different, something that I think is much more like the resurrection that we're looking for. What's interesting about every one of these statements that Jesus makes in chapter 5 is that Jesus does not dismiss what had been said. And that's important to realize. Jesus doesn't say what was said is completely and utterly wrong. Don't do that. Instead, do this. No, not at all. Jesus is looking at the point of what was said. He's looking at the actions that are about what was said, and he's looking further and deeper into us, into our heart, into our mind, into our very soul, to try to understand the motivation behind the action, to try to understand what kind of stuff within us is leading us to take these actions. So, for example, let's take the last one. You've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Okay, this is all about love, right? Love and hate. Well, what are those about? Well, Jesus looks within us and he looks and he says, what is love about? And he says, you know what? If love is love, you can't just choose who you want to love. Love is of God. Love is about a way that you live and act and hold yourself and curiousness about your faith in God and exhibiting that through the way that you care about and treat your brothers and your sisters whom God has made. And they are all people on this earth, whether you love or hate them. And so Jesus says, so I say to you something that takes love to its logical end, that takes love further. You must also love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. It's not that love of your neighbor was wrong. It's that love also has to be extended to your enemies. Jesus takes things, he looks at the issue that's at stake, and he takes it to where it must go. He takes the things that we've been told to do, and he looks within our hearts and our minds at the root of what is important, of what is at stake in the action and the behaviors that we're doing. And he gives us a command that addresses that motivation or that behavior. I think that's part of what resurrection looks like. So I go back to what I asked you earlier. What have you gotten used to over this past year? Some of us have gotten used to seeing folks wear masks, to wearing masks ourselves, to taking all kinds of safety protocols, washing our hands a lot more. We're used to hearing about things that we didn't hear about. We're used to thinking about things that we didn't think about a year and a half ago. What are those about? What lies at the heart of what's in us about these things that are different now? And what might Jesus be saying to us about what lies at the heart? I don't know all those answers, but I suspect that if I just take one, for example, what lies at the heart of wearing a mask right now? Well, what lies at the heart of that is caring about your safety and the safety of those around you. I know for one, I have not had any cold symptom for over a year now, and it's the first year that I've gone without that. The mask has helped create that, right? What lies at the heart of that is my care for my brother and my sister, my fellow human being. But that can't stop with a mask, right? It can't start with a mask, and it can't stop with a mask. You've heard that it was said, wear a mask. But I say to you, I think Jesus would say, I say to you, show the same kind of care for your brother and your sister in every area of life. Show the kind of care and concern and compassion for others' physical health that mask is about. Show it about their mental health right now. Show it about their emotional health. Show it about their relationship with their children right now. And reach out in that same kind of way that mask is about, and care for people that deeply in all these other areas of life that might be being neglected right now. I think those are the kinds of resurrection mindsets that Jesus is asking us to begin to think about as we move out of this pandemic. So I invite you today, wherever you are, what have you gotten used to? What have you heard said for a year or more now? And what might Jesus be calling us to live into that is about the root, the heart, the core of what we've been hearing? Those answers may be different in different ways and different shapes, but I think this is the kind of question that helps get us towards resurrection. So I invite you to consider that this week. If you're watching over Facebook or YouTube, we'll say goodbye online. If you want to join us for a time of prayer, we're going to do that right now on our conference call line. That number is 563-999-1222. You can join us on that line. Just call right in, and you'll be right with us. You can also just jot a prayer request in the comments on YouTube or Facebook, and we will see those and read those and be lifting those up in prayer as well. Take care, and God bless, and we'll see you on our prayer line.